G'day, it's Marty Ware from youtube.com/Marty's Garden. How you going today? Listen, what I want to discuss with you in this show is how do you create a natural mini ecosystem around your vegetable garden to keep away all different pests and diseases. Now, it's all about introducing certain elements and putting your garden into a certain perspective. I wish I could come up with the exact words to introduce it a little bit better for you, but I think you're just going to have to watch the show to find out. One perspective that you need to consider, no matter how deep you are in the urban society, here I am actually right out on the outskirts of, I bought it right on sort of country and suburbia, and I live in a bunch of apartment blocks, and it just goes to show that, you know, with a bit of, tenacity, a little bit of education and stuff, you can really grow a lot of food in small spaces. And I've been lucky enough to come across a block of dirt just up the back corner from the apartments where I live, and the owners have been really nice to let me use it. So I've been considering about all the different elements that I need to introduce into my garden. Now, at the moment, I'm on the spare block of land next to it. This is going to be built out eventually. But what I really like is this wildlife corridor that runs along the side here. Now, it goes up for about 250 metres right up the whole block. And there's a creek that runs down the other side. There's a council works just over to the right over here. Then way over there's an airport and another block of bush here. And we get lots of native birds. We get lots of, I've even seen echidnas and lizards and different snakes and things. So we've got a bit of biodiversity coming here. And you can even hear the rainbow lorikeets at the moment chirping away in the background. So I'm just going to discuss more about biodiversity as we move up into the garden block, which we're going to go look at now. Here I am in my urban patch that I've been lucky enough to grab with rent-free from the landlords where I rent. Yeah, I'm a renter. And, being a renter, sometimes we're stuck in situations where we want to actually grow these lovely gardens and establish them, get them going, etc. But the problem is when we go to leave, what do? We can't actually pick up all this beautiful soil that we've made. But at the end of the day, if you don't do something, you're just not going to end up with fresh food. So what I recommend is that you just plant some annuals, get it going, and then, if you leave some pawpaw trees or some fruit trees behind, don't worry about it, it's no problem. Hopefully the next person will come along and take care of it, and they'll benefit from it too, and maybe even teach their kids about how these fruit trees produce food. You've done something really cool. So what I recommend is that when you're considering the garden, this type of garden, is that you also look at the elements around you. Now, if you're in a really full-on urban area, you need to introduce some water for the birds to come in. And the birds are going to clean up all the little insects and stuff, and they're really nice to see when they come in and dance and sing and stuff on your veranda or wherever you may be. When I walked in here, there was some native quail, which I didn't even know exist in this area, and they hang in this little garden over here, and this is called the fairy garden that's been made by someone else. And they ran and hid in there until they saw me and then flew over the fence real quickly. They don't get a lot of height, but it was just beautiful to see. And they would have been in here cleaning up a lot of the insects, and this part of the garden's never sprayed. Now, this garden that I'm starting now is only brand new. Yeah, it's I've only planted it out in the last week, so it's still got a long way to go. But I've got a shelter, so there's a fence right around the outside, so I'm not getting a lot of wind and the energy and the heat storing up in here. So it creates its own mini micro environment. I've got the bush just over the side here so the birds can come in. But if you don't have those, you need to find ways to bring birds in. Don't feed them crap food because it just makes them sick. But if you bring in water where they can have a bath and maybe enjoy themselves, and put it up nice and high where they're safe from other animals, because they won't come in if they feel threatened. Also, what you want to do is build up, if you've got a vegetable garden such as this one, is build up the microbes in the soil and just bring as much life in as you can. If you can put some rocks around and things like that for lizards to hide in, to come and clean up snails and stuff like that. Okay, listen, I'm going to mention some more about this just coming up shortly, so stay tuned. into the next part of this video. We're going to talk more on this subject. Before starting your urban vegetable garden, preferably organic, you need to keep away different pests and diseases. Now, how can you do that? Well, you need a really good plan, and you need to consider all the elements to create a good plan. Well, what are the elements? Basically, it's bringing wildlife and water into your garden. By attracting the wildlife, they will keep down the pests because they feed on those little critters. And certain types of wildlife eat certain types of pests. As we all know, birds love to eat insects. Now, I have some willy wagtails that live on the fence just near my garden, and they're going to clean everything up that comes around. And they just love to be there. I've also got some wild quail coming in and pecking around and picking up all the little nasties. So I'm quite happy that they are there, and I've got a pool just next to me, so the water element's around anyway. But if you don't have a water element around, I suggest that you add a little pond or create a tray up in the trees somewhere for the birds to come and get a drink and have a bath and be up high and feel safe. If you do put a pond in, make sure you always put some little steps and things if the frogs jump in that they can get back out. Another way to bring the birds into the garden is by planting some native trees and shrubs around the border. Now, it depends on your size. If you've only got a little tiny garden, you might just want to plant some couple of little shrubs and things and bring in the little water tray, etc. And just try and think about creating your own mini ecosystem. And this will create a balance where you don't have to worry so much about all those little nasty pests coming in and eating your garden. And as far as snails and slugs go, well, I also recommend that you add a little rock area for the lizards to come in, because they will clean up any snails and slugs along with the birds. Now, you know, there's spiders and things like that, but we don't want to get into that that nitty-gritty. People go, oh, spiders, oh no, snakes. But what I want to suggest also in the garden is don't plant so much in mono-style form where everything's in perfect rows, because it just gives the pest to jump from one plant to the next. So sort of try and create these little forest environments and bring in the companions. Find out what the companions are to the plants that you're planting, so they keep away and repel the pests and diseases and keep your plants healthy and even more tasty when you put them nearby. A lot of it's involved in trial and error. So if certain plants aren't working, just get rid of them. Remove them. If you have to, buy them from the local grocer. I know you probably don't want to, but if it's just too much problem, don't bother about it. And use the plants that do work and that are productive and that are performing well for you. Now build it up over time, and remember that you need lots of worms in there, lots of microbes, so there's not only animal life above the soil, but down below in the compost, in the mulch, in the soil profile, all doing that work for you. So consider how you can create your own little mini ecosystem over time, and you will end up having your own companion garden, organic garden, whether it's fruit trees, herbs, vegetables, whatever you want to grow. And you're really going to benefit from it, because fresh, healthy food is number one. Yes, it's healthy, it's fresh, it tastes great, keeps you looking good, keeps you thin, and oh look, I'm not going to go into that any further. You know the benefits out of this. So anyway, if you want to learn more about growing herbs, fruits, vegetables, and all this type of stuff that gardeners love to do or want to learn about, come and see us at youtube.com/Marty's Garden, and there's going to be more videos just like this one. So don't forget to subscribe, guys. Have a great day and happy gardening. Bye.